Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And man, I know in the last week or two, many of you have heard the headlines that the New York City mayor has been indicted, but I'm not so sure with our busy lives if you all have followed the details of the indictment, and I want to bring that to you today. As I said before, I think the feds are going to be real busy with three particular areas, going after the entertainment industry that you've seen with Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, and now P. Diddy, Weinstein. I think secondly, you're going to see politicians that are going to be coming under fire, and Eric Adams is just a precipice of what possibly is going to take place. There's going to be a cleansing. So entertainment, politicians, and I think the third one is going to be the entire pandemic relief funds, where people were falsifying documents to get money during the pandemic shutdown, and now they're going to do some auditing, and people are going to have to pay the piper who were lying and giving incorrect statements in order to receive those funds. I think you're going to see an uptick in many indictments. But this story is all wrapped around straw donations. And when I try to tell my followers, let's raise our level of consciousness, pay attention to the national races, presidential race, but make sure that you make sure that you are making your city and state politicians accountable for your needs. And of course, New York and Chicago with their migrant issues as sanctuary cities have been at the top of the heap for these two black mayors that have had many issues. And now this is the icing on the cake for Eric Adams to have been indicted. And this is wrapped around straw donations. And of course, you know, straw donations are what? Well, normally there's a limit on what an individual can give to a politician for his cabinet. And when wealthy individuals want to give more than that limit, they have other people do it for them. And this also took place, and I did a video on it, where the mayor of Oakland had the FBI raid her home based on straw donations with a company called California Waste Solutions. So look up straw donations and know what those are all about. The more we can educate ourselves on this political and this legislative time, the more we can make the right decision on who we want to represent us and hold them accountable. So let's get in. So this is all about straw donations to a certain degree. And New York and Chicago are two of our largest cities in America, and they are the heartbeat of America, and they are falling apart day by day. So let's go. New York City Mayor Adams pleads not guilty to federal corruption charges. New York City Mayor Eric Adams stepped into a Manhattan courtroom and into the history books when he was arraigned on federal corruption and bribery charges that could force him out of office. He says, "I am not guilty, Your Honor," Adams, in a confident voice, told federal magistrate judge Catherine Parker during a brief court appearance in Manhattan. Adams, who was dressed in a dark suit with a white shirt and red tie, was told not to talk to any of the witnesses named in the indictment. He shall have no contact with any individual witnesses or others listed in the list to be provided by the government concerning the facts or circumstances as provided in the indictment, Parker said. Adams was allowed to leave without having to post bail. His next court appearance has been scheduled this following Wednesday. He will be filing a motion to dismiss on Wednesday, Adams' lawyer Alex Spiro said to the judge. When it was over, Adams avoided making eye contact with anyone as he left the courtroom, and once outside, he gave a thumbs up to a small waiting crowd, which included a heckler yelling, "Lock him up." Meanwhile, attorney Spiro slammed the prosecutors and called the federal case against Adams shaky and built on the testimony of a staffer who has lied. He did not name the staffer. He said this case isn't even a real case. This is the airline upgrade corruption case. Adams surrendered to federal authorities a day after he was hit with a 57-page federal indictment, accusing him of taking $100,000 worth of free plane tickets and luxury hotel stays from wealthy Turkish nationals and at least one government official in a nearly decade-long corruption scheme. A 64-year-old New York City police captain, a 64-year-old former New York City police captain, Adams is charged with 5 criminal counts that include bribery, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and solicitation of a contribution by a foreign national. Adams is the first sitting New York City mayor to be indicted on criminal charges in the modern era. He's the first. That's amazing, seeing all the corruption and political corruption that has taken place throughout New York for many, many years. The official mayoral schedule for Friday, released by City Hall, reflected Adams' new reality with a 7-hour unexplained gap between his 8:30 a.m. meeting with outgoing New York City Schools Chancellor David Banks and his staff, and a 3:30 p.m. meeting with the Mayoral Advisor Committee. Upon arriving at the courthouse in Manhattan, Adams gave a thumbs up to onlookers, but made no statement as he was escorted inside. Ever defiant, Adams has vowed to fight the charges and stay on as mayor, even as a growing number of politicians have called for him to step down. He says, "We are not surprised. We expected this," Adams said Thursday after he was charged. "I asked New Yorkers to wait to hear our defense before making any judgments." The alleged international pay-to-play scheme that ensnarled Adams began after he became Brooklyn Borough president in 2014 and helped to underwrite his successful mayoral campaign 7 years later, the indictment says. In return for free travel benefits and illegal campaign contributions, Adams performed favors for his foreign benefactors, including pressuring the New York City Fire Department to allow a Turkish consulate building to open despite serious safety concerns, the indictment says. The scheme, the indictment says, continued into this year, even after federal officers seized Adams' electronic devices and raided the home of his chief fundraiser. This was a multi-year scheme to buy favor with a single New York City politician on the rise, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said Thursday. Adams' indictment capped 2 weeks of turmoil in his administration, a period during which Banks, the city's police commissioner, and the city's top lawyer have announced their resignation. So his whole cabinet is falling apart. Several prominent politicians have called on for the Democrat to resign, including Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Democrat from New York, State Senator John Louis, Democrat from Queens, and Representative Jerry Nadler, Democrat New York, who is the dean of the state's House delegation. But so far, the most powerful political figures in New York, Senator Chuck Schumer, the state majority leader, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and Governor Kathy Hochul, have not joined the choir or the chorus calling for Adams to leave. Governor Hochul, who has the power to remove the mayor, released a lengthy statement last Thursday in which she says she expects Adams to take the next few days to review the situation and find an appropriate path forward. but she stopped short of urging Adams to resign. The indictment of Adams centers on his relationship with a handful of well-connected Turkish nationals who provided the mayor with free travel and entertainment benefits as well as illegal campaign cash, according to the federal prosecutors. In 2021, Adams and his staff workers worked to disguise the foreign money by funneling it through U.S. citizens, the indictment says. His campaign received more than $10 million in matching public funds as a result of the false certifications, allegedly. From 2016 to 2021, Adams received free business class tickets or upgrades on 7 trips to India, France, Hungary, Ghana, and Turkey, and some other countries, just to name a few, all worth more than $123,000, the indictment says. Ahead of one trip to Istanbul, an Adams staffer requested that the Turkish airline manager charge him a real price to conceal the travel gift, the indictment says. How much should I charge? The airline manager asked in June 2021, a few weeks before the Democratic primary. His every step is being watched right now, the Adams staffer replied, according to the indictment. 1,000 or so. Let it be somewhat real. Prosecutors say Adams kept fake paper trails and deleted messages to hide his misconduct. Then in September 2021, a Turkish government official told Adams it was his turn to support Turkey after the official had helped arrange straw donations to his campaign, the indictment says. What the official wanted was for a new Turkish consular building, a 36-story skyscraper, to be opened in time for a high-profile visit by Turkey's president. Adams then began pressuring the then fire commissioner to do what was necessary for the building to get approval to open. When Adams delivered the news that the building would be approved in time to open, the Turkish official called him a true friend of Turkey. The Turkish embassy in Washington has so far made no public statements about Adams or the alleged scheme that threatens his political career. Spiro on Thursday dismissed the indictment and case against the mayor and said it was overblown. He said you could almost picture them trying to cobble this together and try to sell a story so they can say corruption, corruption at a press conference, Spiro said at a Thursday press conference. But this is not the only federal investigation dogging the Adams administration. This month, investigators working a separate probe searched the homes and seized the phones belonging to multiple top officials close to Adams. Police Commissioner Edward Cobbin, who was among those whose phones were seized, resigned September 12th. Authorities also seized the phones of Cobbin's twin brother, James Cobbin, a former police officer who owns a nightclub security business. Federal investigators were looking into whether bars and clubs in Midtown Manhattan and Queens paid James Cobbin to act as a police liaison and whether those clubs were then afforded special treatment by local precincts, according to sources familiar with this matter. They go on to say that this is also a public corruption investigation. We will dig and we will hold more people accountable, Williams said. Man, this is the largest city in America. And of course, this has become a sanctuary city, just like in Chicago with Brandon Johnson. And you have here again a black African-American mayor, very similar to Brandon Johnson. And Brandon Johnson better have his eyes and ears wide open watching this debacle with the New York City Mayor Adams. Because who could be next? It seems like the feds are going to use a fine-tooth comb with our politicians, our entertainers, to make sure that they're dotting every I and crossing every T. And as I said to you in a previous video, Brandon Johnson is expecting a $1 billion deficit next year as the mayor of Chicago. What in the world is going on? And they have spent in Chicago over $150 million on the sanctuary illegal migrant situation. I'm using that comparison because you're talking about two of the biggest cities in America where you are hearing rumblings about Eric Adams every day. Now he's been indicted. You're hearing rumblings about Chicago. What are the parallels? Both are sanctuary cities. Both are African-American mayors, male. Both have had years of assaults, gun violence, murders, homicides, even on the public transportation systems, whether it's just Chicago AO or the subway in New York. Public safety has become a real issue in both of these major cities. What are some of the other similarities with both of them? You have the Chicago Board of Trade in Chicago, and you have the New York Stock Exchange in New York. So these two cities are the heartbeat of commerce, of tourism, and are marketed all throughout the world for people to come visit when they come to America. And how is this corruption, this violence, this illegal migrant issue affecting their tourism? Chicago alone, in downtown Chicago Loop, has a 50% commercial vacancy rate right now. What is that doing to the Chicago economy, along with this $1 billion deficit? Same thing in New York. New York is down over 1,500 police officers. What does that say for their public safety? In 1 year, over 2,500 police officers in New York either retired early or left the force within 1 year. 2,500. Of course, they're down hundreds of correctional officers in their local city, county jails, and their prison system. What does that say for public safety for people that work there, let alone the prisoners? So there is a high chasm, an epitome of chaos and disruption in both of these cities. And straw donations can get politicians in trouble all the time. And so when you're looking at this video, and you may live in a different city and say, what does that have to do with me? I think you have to open your eyes and ears up and pay attention. If this can happen in these major cities like New York City, where the mayor is being indicted and his whole cabinet is falling apart, it could definitely happen at a smaller city throughout our country. Denver has become a sanctuary city, and they have tons of chaos that is going on. So this can be a swiping wave that can enter many other cities in our country and can cause quite a bit of disruption. And we are going through this presidential election. There is a lot going on, and I think you should pay very close attention to this federal indictment on the New York City Mayor Eric Adams, and how this plays itself out. Tell me what you think. There's going to be quite a few politicians and entertainers shaking in their pants when the feds, if issues with them come across the federal government's table, there are going to be people that are going to have to pay the piper, and there may be several politicians and entertainers going to jail in the near future. Tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth.